Yirra Yaakin grew out of a project called Land Lovers, which was a youth theatre project that kind of no one wanted to do. And I was one of the few people in WA at that time who had done youth theatre work. So Graham Gavin approached me and said, would you like to do this work? And I thought, oh yeah, that's easy, you know. Just grab a bunch of Aboriginal youth and do a youth theatre workshop. The idea was that we would get a cast of about 30, half of them Aboriginal, half of them non-Aboriginal, and do a youth theatre production of it. It took me a long time to gather enough blackfellas to actually be in the production, but we finally got there, and it was kind of a hit of art rage in 1990. Of that cast of 15 and the associated families around that, that nucleus of people all kind of went, well, this is too good to just do as a one-off. Can't we make this more permanent? Let's take this project and make it into something more. We opened the doors in February 1993 and started running workshops and becoming a company, basically.
I was truly impressed by some of these plays that were being presented back into the community. And in the early years, there were a lot of Jack Davis plays being created and given back to the community, not just into the Aboriginal community, but into the wider community. I was very proud that that voice existed because it was another medium that was telling a story about our history. I think there was a very good partnership between the workers and the board members who were representing the community.
I wanted to be a musician and I was pretty broke at the time, as most musicians are. And they got me to do some music workshops with the kids, just little plays, little bits and pieces here and there. Then they were doing a show called Wicked, which was a much bigger production, and it was going on tour to the Pilbara. So they got me in to do the soundtrack and do all the sort of backing tapes and that for the show. And the one of the actors won the lottery and decided that, you know, he didn't really need to go on tour. And Paul McPhail, after he'd had his initial heart attack, because I was the only person really in the room, he said, "Can you act?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You get paid for it." And I said, "Well, I can try." And he gave me a script and I had to learn the script, and that was how I wound up to be with Yirra Yaakin. Went off on tour up in the Pilbara. I was a terrible actor.
When I first got to work with Yirra Yaakin, we were sitting around telling yarns, and Paul said, "Oh, Lynette, one day, so, you know, this actor didn't turn up. We went to this school," he said, "and I had to play this Wonga, and here's Paul, you know, this Wodjila bloke had to play the character, this Wonga," and he reckons it was the biggest fright of his life. He was just shaking, thinking, "Oh no, the show must go on."
And there's a picture of me, Mandy and Warren that was taken as a publicity shot in our first week. It was the beginning of the 90s. I've got this lovely hairdo, but the thing about it is my hair was black. And it turned grey within about 6 months of me running Yirra Yaakin.
There were times when we'd say, "You're not going to get paid this week. There's no money in the bank." Or I'd say to Paul, "I really want to do this show." And he says, "Well, you know, we haven't got the money to do that." But he'd always say, "Don't worry about it. We'll find it."
Well, both of us ain't got much hair left, but, you know, there were times we were pulling our hair out. How are we going to survive?
I think we worked very hard in the early years to allow that growth to happen. You know, there were mistakes that we made, but over and above that journey, I think we did a fairly good job in making sure that it came to fruition and we had a product.
What we did really well was learn from our mistakes. And then we put things into practice that stopped us from going down that path again. So we were able to keep learning and then reinventing ourselves quite often so that we could maintain the integrity of the company.
During sort of 94, 95, when we started to realise that this was going to work and that we would be able to carry on and we would be able to become incorporated, we started to realise we needed a better name than the Aboriginal Youth Theatre Project. We started with workshops with the kids that we were working with. We just took aside a couple of weeks out of the workshop program and said, "Look, if you had to draw something that was what we do, what would it be?" It was stick pictures of themselves with dreadies and afros and all sorts of different haircuts, but definitely young people. Someone on the steering committee came up with Yirra Yaakin. So it means stand tall in the Noongar language, partly because of those stick figures and partly because we thought it was a great name for the ambition and the aims of the organisation, which was to try and give young people to start with, but in the end, the Aboriginal community as a whole, a voice and be able to say, tell your story, be proud of it, and everybody else will start to recognise that there's something important here.